Well, that's our intro.
Welcome back to Babes in Talksland. We're here bringing you season 2, and today we have the fabulous, beautiful, and hilarious fire sign of a Sag, Angela Morgan, and the owner of Luxe Atelier. Angela, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for inviting
We're
me. This is so
happy
fun.
to have you.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. Who the hell are you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, where do we start? On a dark summer night. No. I'm a Sag, so that wouldn't work at all. Okay, so I grew up in a super small town in Eastern Oregon. So much so that when I meet people now, they're like, "Wait, what? You like luxury handbags, but you grew up in a town of your dad was a farmer." I'm like, "Yep."
Where?
East Oregon, Oregon.
Oregon,
Oregon, 100%. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. You guys ever heard of Hermiston watermelons?
Yeah.
Like they're the best watermelons on the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Go to the store right now and get a Hermiston watermelon, dude.
You're going to be checking all the tabs.
Yes, you do. I do not buy a watermelon if it doesn't say Hermiston on it.
That's so weird that they grow watermelon in Oregon.
Well, it's so hot. So what a lot of people don't realize is that there's two parts of the state. There's the eastern part of the state, which is very dry and
It's like
hot.
a desert.
It's a desert. It's high desert. And then there's this western part, right? This Portland on the other side of the mountains. So it's almost like Arizona, Colorado. So I grew up in 115-degree heat.
Oh, damn.
Very dry and never rained. So when I told my parents that I wanted to go to Oregon State, which we'll get to later, they were like, "Say what? Like it rained, you're going to grow moss on your back." That's what my dad always said.
Wild.
So anyways, grew up there from when I was very little. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. Yeah, it's super small. I like to say that I love going back.
How long does it take you to get back?
It's about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, close enough.
So my husband is actually from Hermiston, where the watermelons grow. We did not know each other
Sounds like a
until
country
college.
song.
Yeah.
Where the watermelons grow.
There is a song called
Yeah.
There is a country song. So when I was in high school, I think I specifically remember asking my parents, what's the farthest I could go away? And I was the first person in my entire family to go to college.
Congrats.
And so
Amazing.
I wanted to be a pharmacist. That's what I wanted to do. And so
Really?
I worked at a pharmacy when I was 16 years old until through college. And he went to Oregon State, the pharmacist who taught me and did all the things. And so I went to Oregon State to be a pharmacist. And soon learned that I was not super keen on chemistry or any of that. So I did 3 years of pre-pharm. So right before at Oregon State, right before you are supposed to apply to go into the PharmD program, and I honestly had a mental breakdown, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to be a pharmacist. I'm going to have the night shift at the Walgreens on Holgate.
That Walgreens.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I was like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I went and sat in my advisor's office, and I was crying to him, and I go, I don't know what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And he goes, you are going to go get a business degree, and you're going to go work for a pharmaceutical company. And I was like, what's that? And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. So I went, and he goes, you are one class away from getting a pharmacy degree. What does a pharmacy degree do for you? I don't know. So I got a pharmacy degree and then a degree in business marketing, which is so funny because I hate marketing. I hate it. So I have this double degree in pharmacy and marketing, and graduated, went 5 years to Oregon State. I ran cross country Oregon State, which is a super crazy fun fact
That's
about me.
awesome.
I do not run anymore. You would think I would, but I did a little bit out of college, and then I was very burnt out. So graduated college, and my parents looked at me and they go, "What you gonna do now?" And I was like, "I'm gonna get a job in the pharmaceutical industry," And they're like, "Okay." And I had one job interview with Eli Lilly, and they looked at me and they said, "Do you have any sales experience?" And I said, "No, nobody told me I needed sales experience." And they go, "Oh, well, you have to have sales experience." So I went and I got a job at Nordstrom. I knew somebody who worked at Nordstrom and called them and was like, "Will you hire me?" basically. And would always joke that would be the job, my job until I got my real job. That wasn't a real job.
Which Nordstrom?
Well, I started in Salem.
Okay.
As a salesperson in the lingerie department, and then I moved and I was I went to Washington Square for a Christmas season, and I was a salesperson in lingerie. Went downtown Portland and was the assistant manager there in lingerie. Moved back to Salem as the department manager. Was there for a year. I won a ton. I don't like to say I. We, my team, and I won a ton of awards. We won like #1 department in the country that year.
Wow. That's
Took
hard.
kind of this not dying department, but like a department that wasn't doing very well, and took it to the #1 sales in the country. So that was super fun. That kind of was the first taste of sales for me. Of like, wow, this is very. I don't know, it was fun. So and then I moved up to Seattle and worked at a store up there. So my husband and I we were not even engaged yet. So we lived up in Seattle for 2 years, did that store. And then they said, do you want to move to Nashville for a year? And I said, yeah, we'll move to Nashville for a year.
Wow.
So worked there. And then it was when we were in Nashville that my husband was like, you work 60 hours a week. You are working your tail off. You should really try to get a job back home doing what you were like made to do, like in the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, I don't like to ever leave my comfort zone. So I was like, no, I'm good. I'm like, this is great. And he goes, you work so much. So found a recruiter, applied for a job, got the job, moved back to Portland from Nashville, and thought that this whole pharmaceutical thing would be like the coolest thing in the world. I hated my life for like this first 6 months. And one thing you'll learn about me is that I do not give up. Like if there is one thing I don't do is I don't give up. And so for the first 6 months, like I hated my life. I hated the job. I hated what I was doing. I was cold calling on these clinics. It was terrible, right? But after about 6 months, there's an old saying in the pharmaceutical world is 90% of it is just showing up. And so I would just always show up. I was there.
I could say that to be true about even our reps.
Yeah.
Are you able to say what type of product it was? You don't have to say the brand.
So I was always in cardiovascular. So I have a huge passion for the cardiovascular world, which, I could still read somebody's labs till this day. When someone, I'm like, give me your labs. I'll tell you how your heart's doing right now because it's doing terrible. And so I did called it outpatient pharmaceutical sales for a few years, and then I moved into the hospital realm, and that's when I became a nurse educator. And so I was a nurse educator for a really small Italian owned pharmaceutical company up until I actually left to open up Luxe Atelier.
Wow.
And so I was in the cath lab, I was in the ER, I was in the ICU, seeing some really crazy things that I, never want to see again.
Yeah.
But I have a huge passion for, outside of skin, for cardiovascular health and all of that through that. So I've had like a smorgasbord of jobs. So I don't really know if that goes into why I left the medical field to go into this. I've always had a passion for ingredients, right? That's what pharmaceuticals are, right? I was always opening up. If you ever go to a pharmacy and you find like the back of a drug bottle, there'd be what's called the package insert, the PI, right? And I'd open this PI and it'd be like, the size of a map, and I'd be like, okay, let's read here. And I would always read about like the mechanism of action of like why it worked and how it worked and what was it doing and what were the side effects and all these things. So I had a real like nerdy passion for that. And so when my second child was born in 2016, I went off birth control because my husband had a vasectomy and I didn't need to be on it anymore. And my skin just freaked out. Like my acne from my teenage years came back, and I had gone to, you name the esthetician, you name the spa in Portland, Oregon, anywhere, and I'd been there. I'd tried every peel, every treatment, every brand, if someone told me you need to pay $700 for this regimen, I'd be like, done, pay for it, I'll do it. If you promised me it was going to help my skin, I was there, right? And so it came to be that it was about 2018, and I was doing these peels like every single month, and if I didn't get them like 4 weeks on the dot, my acne would come back. And no one told me why, right? I was just in there doing it. And so I started doing my own research on some things, and I would ask these estheticians questions that they wouldn't know the answer to. And then of course I would get frustrated because I'm like, how am I just this lay normal person and you can't give me, like, I kind of know more than you do and you can't give me the answer. And so one day I was on Instagram, because it's like my favorite place to hang out is on Instagram, and I found this brand, Biologique Recherche, and I said, gosh, I've never heard of this brand. How is it? Like, I know every brand in the world. What is this? And so did some research and found like it's nowhere to be found. Like, you got to be in New York City or LA to go there. So kind of waited until I traveled a lot for work at that time. So I would go to like international stroke conferences or cardiovascular conventions, things like that. And I was in Canada at that time, and I actually emailed the company and said, where can I find a place that has your products? I just want to try them. And they said, oh, the Fairmount in Vancouver, BC has this brand.
Interesting.
So I went and had a facial there. It was a hotel facial. Like, I'm now in the realization there's like a hotel facial, which is just kind of normal. And then happened to be in LA in February of 2020 and got a facial. And this woman, it was at a spa that actually doesn't exist anymore. It was an amazing spa in Beverly Hills. And she blew my mind. Like, taught me about, like, would tell me why my skin was doing this, why it wasn't, all this kind of stuff. Started using the products then, and then got connected. The pandemic hit. And I found this woman in New York City named Aida Bacaj. She's my mentor till this day. She's a wonderful, wonderful wealth of knowledge. And she did virtual consults from New York City. And so I said, I'm going to do this virtual consult with this woman because she's going to help me continue on my regimen of this brand. And she, you know, she was the first person ever in my life to the first question she asked me was, do you eat dairy? And I was like, well, I'm human, so yes. She goes, do you eat sugar? And I said, yes, I'm human also. And she goes, you have to quit eating those. That's why you have acne. And nobody had ever said that to me. And so that got my brain ticking, right? So through the pandemic till about September of 2020, she really helped me with my skin. And it was in 2020 that her and I did a 1-hour Instagram live on her Instagram, just talking back and forth about skin. And we got off the Instagram live and she called me and she goes, what do you do? Like, are you in skin? Are you? And I go, no, I work for a pharmaceutical company. I'm a nurse educator. You know, this is what I do. And she goes, no, you need to be in skin. And I go, it was one of those things where I was like, no, I'm okay. Like I have a really good career. She goes, but your passion is skin. And I go, yeah, but there's like a difference between your passion and your job, right? Like they don't always coincide. Right. And so, but again, I'm always one to take everybody's like feedback and take it in my brain, and I'm like, I wonder. What could. And at that point, I had so many of my friends on this brand. Like, I had sent so many people to her to buy the stuff because it had changed my skin, that kind of the wheels started turning. And so just being the person that I am, I called the company because I was like, there's no Bilo Chic in Oregon. Like, why is there no Bilo Chic in Oregon, right? So I just called the company and I said, hey, who's like the rep out west? Let me just pick their brain. Because that's one thing I learned through the pharmaceutical industry and in sales. Like, if you don't ask a question, the answer is always no. And so I just picked up the phone and said, like, what can it hurt for me just to ask a couple questions? And so called them and they said, well, you know, a lot of people have applied to bring our brand into their spas in Oregon, but we have very high stipulations of, like, you know, where we go into and things like that. And so I swear to you till this day, it was like the words came out of my mouth and I didn't mean to say them, but I said, well, what if I opened a spa? Like, kind of just said it. Wow. But I didn't even know, like, how it would happen, what I would do, what I wouldn't do. It just kind of came out, and they go, would you? And I go, well, I don't know. But, you know what I mean? Like,
easy.
What would it take? I don't know. Yeah. Sure. So they said, well, would you be the business owner or would you be an esthetician as well? And I thought, well, I don't know. Like, maybe both. So again, this is a really long story, but called a school. It's one of those things where, like, everything, I'd ask a question, and the answer was always yes. And so it was like, oh, well, that was easy. Okay, well, that was easy. Well, that was, so called a school. They said, oh, we have this hybrid program where you just have to go to school once a week. And at that time, it was really interesting because I remember looking at the teacher of the esthetician school, and I said, so you're telling me if I'm going to do this hybrid program and it takes six months, and I'm only going to be here once a week, you're going to tell me in 20 weeks, 20 days, so 20 Fridays of doing this, I'm going to be an esthetician? Like, 20 days? Wow. Like, everything else I was doing at home, right? We had to do all of these things at home, and I was recording myself and sending them in. So that right there, I was like, wow. Like, all the education you get has to be from yourself at home, right? They teach you the basics, but everything else, right? So, anyways, here I am.
Wow, that's such an incredible story. I had no idea that's what your background was in. Yeah. So you basically started in 2020.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That was like when the idea came, right? Went to school in 2021, opened up the spa January 2022. I still had my other job.
Wow.
Oh.
As we do.
Oh, that's a toxic trait of mine that I maybe double dipped for just a little bit.
So were you living in Lake Oswego? What caused
we
you
live
to...
in Westland.
Okay.
And when I went to really think about where would I put a luxury spot, right? Because then you start thinking about, how does Lake Oswego, Westland, not have a luxury spot? Like, I'm just your average everyday mom, and I love these products. And yes, while they're expensive, the thing about them is that I always use them down to the last drop, right? And I am the queen of having the beauty graveyard. And if you don't know where your beauty graveyard is, it's under your sink, right? Because you buy a product, and you use it for a little bit, and then you're like, meh, I'm going to put it down here, right? Until I go to the store and buy something else. So this was the first brand that I would start, and I was like, oh my God, I used this to the last drop. I need to order another one, right? So I thought, I can't be the only one trying to find my perfect brand, right? So I love Westland. I love living in Westland. It's the best place in the world. That is not a place to open a business. No offense. We call it the bedroom community. So we go there to sleep, and then we leave. Literally,
so
we leave.
A really quaint little downtown. It's small and safe. Yep.
But it's where you sleep, and then you leave. You don't eat there because there's not very good restaurants.
There is that? Oh, bummer.
You know what I mean? And so Lake Oswego. I knew enough about Lake Oswego that knew that it could kind of handle this, and then found like where I would like to say now is the perfect location for it. And again, it was like I just asked, had I ever negotiated a rental agreement or a lease with somebody? Never. Like, right? I didn't even hire a real estate. People to this day are like, you didn't hire a commercial real estate agent to help you? And I was like, no, I didn't. I hired a really good lawyer. Like, I have a great lawyer.
That's the key. You can figure out everything else, right?
My quote in life is, everything is figure outable. There's actually a book that I can't remember who wrote it. But
Marie something.
Yeah, everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
And it's true. You just have to be willing to ask the questions. And that's what holds a lot of people back, is not a lot of people are willing to just put themselves out there and ask the questions. And I guess I was.
Did you start that space completely on your own, or did you start with any employees?
I had one employee. So it was myself and her, and it was so fun at the beginning because, we did zero marketing. I took basically just my savings account and opened this space. I've never taken on an investor. I don't ever want to take on an investor, no offense to anybody, but it's like, if I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears into this business, I don't want anybody else to own any percentage of it, right? Just my husband and myself. And so she was on, and so it would be really fun because it'd be like, okay, I have a facial, so you're going to watch the front desk, and then you have a facial, so that I'm going to watch the front desk. And so we do this trade-off, and it would be like, well, what if we have a facial at the same time? Then I'm like, then I guess we lock the door. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I guess we lock the door. And so we did that for about 4 to 6 months before I finally brought on like a part-time front desk person. Nice. And what's fun is that every employee that I've brought on has either been a client before or has like known, you know what I mean? So I've never had to go through this interview process. It's all people that have either had facials there or what. And so it makes it a really, really fun environment. I wanted to hire women who this was either their second career or they were like stay-at-home moms for a long time and then wanted to follow their passion. Because if you hire people, because again, when I was at Nordstrom, I had 19 employees of people who had zero passion for being there, and it was constantly trying to like feed passion into somebody who that wasn't their passion. Whereas if you can have a team of people who this is solely their passion, then you don't have to like force them to be there, right?
Yeah.
They want to be there. And so that's really, we joke that I'm in the honeymoon phase right now because I have this team of people who I don't really have to manage. They all want to be there. We all love being there. We all get along. I have 13 employees now. So we went in, 2.5 years, went from 1 employee to 13.
And this is all still at one location?
Still at one location.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
It says a lot.
So it's I pinch myself every day that it's, going back to the whole, like, you can't have a job and have a passion at the same time. Like, I truly found that. I found my passion, where it just so happens to also pay the bills. And so cool. Super blessed.
That's so amazing. Yeah. That's pretty badass.
It is. I'm like,
and now the podcast is over.
Wow. That's a really badass. Like I had no idea that that's what your background is. It's like all I knew was people were telling me how amazing and cool and successful you were, and I kind of wanted to get to know you from you. So that is just so inspiring.
Yeah. You know, and it's I mentor a few people, like other business owners in this world, and you know, they say, well, God, you should have done this like when you were 25. I would have failed. I would have fallen on my face. Like without Nordstrom, without doing what I did, you know, it's kind of, it's a corny thing of like everything is meant to be, and whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, but like this was my life cycle. You know, I would not be as successful as I am today if I wouldn't have done those things. And so when young girls come in or they message me or they want to do these things, you know, it's kind of that thing that I said before I started the podcast. If they don't have any sales experience or any experience of anything, like they went to high school and they went to be an esthetician, I straight look at them in the eyes and I go, you need to go work in the service industry for a year. Either be a waitress or somebody, because it teaches you so much, right? And so you have to go be in the service industry to be able to. So anyways, I would have failed on my face even if I wouldn't have done that.
I truly believe everything happens for a reason.
100%.
You know, like, and you know, if something bad is happening to you, it means something good. It's going to open up something positive.
You're going to learn something.
Absolutely.
Right? You're going to learn something. Yeah.
And I say that all the time about working in the service industry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, it's important.
Yeah, it is. I definitely wouldn't have lasted at Nordstrom any longer than I did, but it certainly set me up to provide exceptional experiences for people. And we like to say, if you've worked at Nordstrom, you've been in customer service boot camp.
Absolutely.
100%. I still, till this day, I mean, I run my business based on how Nordstrom taught me.
Same.
You know, people always say, how did you learn how to run a business? I said, Nordstrom. I mean, I was a department manager. I had 19 employees at one point. I had an assistant. And the cool thing about Nordstrom is that they front all the money, right? So they buy all the merchandise, they buy the whole thing. I get a salary for being there, but they teach you everything. And if they don't teach you, you're going to figure it out. You know, because that was 100% of the time it was like, I'm just going to figure this out. I'm just going to start clicking buttons till something works, right?
So was there a time within the last 4 years or so when you really questioned your decision to be your own boss and to be the boss of others?
Honestly, no, because there got to be a point, you know, would like to use the term like very loosely, successful at Nordstrom, right? I kind of hit the top of the top. I could have gone to be a buyer and moved into the corporate world of Nordstrom, but I knew that I was a people person. I knew that I didn't want to be behind a desk. And so I hit kind of the top of the top that I felt I could do at Nordstrom. I'd won all the awards, won all the things you could win. And then in, you know, the medical world, won, you know, President's Club, won all these awards there. And what really got me to be frustrated about the medical field, that's a whole nother podcast if you want to go into that. That's like, that's over here. But I'm a self-motivator, right? Nobody has to get me up out of bed. Like, I get myself up out of bed. If I was supposed to be somewhere at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be somewhere at 8 o'clock. And in what I was doing for the medical field, for the pharmaceutical world, being a nurse educator, I didn't have a boss to check in. I didn't have a location to be at 8 a.m. or any, you know. So there were these like reports that we had to turn in once a month, and it would be like August 31st at 11:55 p.m. And I was like turning in my reports because I hated doing that. I'm like, why do I have to prove to you that I was doing my job? Like, I was doing my job, right? And so at that point, I thought, I don't want somebody like looming over me all the time. Like, if I fail, like if I own my own business and I fail, it's because of me. But if I do really, really good, it's also because of me, right? And so,
it's the best way to be.
I just knew that I didn't need somebody to tell me what to do on a daily basis, right? Because I'm a self-motivator.
Yeah. And that's also a really good way to be, because it's like, if you're motivated by money or you're motivated by your boss yelling at you, what a miserable life. You know? Yep.
So I just knew to a point where it's just like, that boss was always kind of holding me back from what I could be because of some corporate standard that I had to like turn a report in by midnight on this day. And it's like, dude, my numbers show that I was there and I'm number one in the country again. Like, why are you bothering me? You know? So No, not yet. Ask me in a couple
Great.
years. Ask me when we open up our next location if I still like this or not.
So you don't have to share too much, but do you have plans for expansion?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We can keep those under wraps, but I can't wait to hear about it.
Excited about it.
Yes.
What is your take on retinol?
Ooh, again, like I could go in depth. So my passion behind skincare and ingredients is truly getting people to understand the ingredient, right? So retinol is a term, right? I like to take it a step further and go, okay, what is, and I'm one of these people that's like, what is retinol? Okay, it's a form of vitamin A, right? So what is vitamin A, right? So I'm like this dork who's like, let's back up and do it. So you know, there's tretinoin, there's retinol, there's retinaldehyde, like there's all these things. So vitamin A, when you look, and I'm a science person, I read white papers to go to sleep at night. Like when people go, what shoes do you, or like what shows do you watch at night? I'm like, I was reading a clinical trial on vitamin C last night. You know what I mean? Like I fell asleep really fast. And so vitamin A, so there's a book, so there's a dermatologist and plastic surgeon by the name of Des Fernandez, and he is out of South Africa, and he started a brand called Environ. But he really is the person who brought this whole life of vitamin A to the aesthetic world, I guess, the professional aesthetic world. And so you have to understand vitamin A. So retinol is the alcohol form of vitamin A. Tretinoin, being the strongest, is the acid form, right? So you've got the acid form, a step below that is the alcohol form, a step below that is something called retinol palmitate, which is the ester form, which is a fatty form of vitamin A. And then you can even go down to the very basic level of beta-carotene, which is the natural form. So that is, I mean, we find it in carrots, we find it in tomatoes. So there's a way that we can ingest vitamin A through the foods that we eat, right? So everybody needs vitamin A in the food that we ingest or in what we put on our skincare. Because if you look scientifically, when we look at people who have the healthiest skin, right? So what is the healthiest skin? It's got the strongest skin barrier. It's got, it's the most resilient. It's got the most glow. It's got the best barrier. Those people scientifically have the most vitamin A in their skin, okay? But we think, because we have been, and I say American, I'm American, but in this American world of aesthetics, we think the stronger, the better, right? So we go to a dermatologist and we say, we want to get youthful skin. And a dermatologist will go, well, here's some tretinoin, because this has scientifically been shown to be the best at collagen production, elastin production, da-da-da-da. What they forget to mention is the downfalls of tretinoin, of the acid form. So there are people out there, though, that can handle tretinoin. They can put tretinoin on their face every single night and they're fine. 85% of the population can't do that because they'll say, well, my skin turned really, really red, or it turned really, really scaly. And then you'll get people who go, push through that. Just push through that.
Push through the purge is what you'll hear.
I am like the complete opposite, because what happens when you deteriorate your skin barrier or the top layer of your epidermis is you create an atmosphere of where bacteria can get in there, right? So this is how rosacea is typically formed, or a bout of rosacea is formed, which a lot of people don't understand rosacea, and I love teaching about what rosacea truly is. And so you piss off the skin barrier by using an acid form of vitamin A, thinking that you're doing the best you can do. But then you've pissed off your barrier and no one told you, so you just like keep doing what you're doing, right? And then you're like, my skin is dry, it hurts, it's red, it's this, and it's going, well, what have you been doing? Well, I've been using tretinoin. Okay, well, why? Because the dermatologist told me to. It was going to be the best for me, you know? And so I am of the mindset of find the form of vitamin A that your skin can handle on a daily basis. The other thing about vitamin A that not a lot of people know about is that vitamin A should absolutely 100% be used in the daytime, right? But we know that you cannot use tretinoin or retinol during the day because they're photosensitive. So what do? We need to find the form. And the reason why vitamin A is so important during the day is because what is the one thing that deteriorates vitamin A in the skin more than anything else?
Sun.
UV rays, right? Is there UV rays at nighttime? There are zero. Right? Because we're sleeping. So if we know that UV rays deteriorate the amount of vitamin A in our skin, then when do we need to be reapplying vitamin A to fight that? Is during the day, right? But then we know that retinol and tretinoin cannot be used during the day. So we have to find the form that is safe and can be used during the day, and that is retinol palmitate. It is basically a vitamin A molecule wrapped in a fatty acid. What does the fatty acid do? The fatty acid makes it so that molecule can penetrate the epidermis, penetrate the skin surface without burning it, which is what tretinoin and retinol can do, and goes into the deeper layers and starts doing what we call God's work, right? It's God's work. And so retinol palmitate also is a super cool molecule that we have as humans a certain amount of vitamin A receptors in our skin, right? Somebody who has never applied vitamin A on their skin ever in their life has very little vitamin A receptors. So we have to build those vitamin A receptors up. If you go and you have 0 vitamin A receptors because you've never used it and you throw tretinoin on it, your skin's going to freak out. It's going to be like, what did you just do, right? So I use a form of vitamin A, retinol palmitate, that has what's called a step-up system. So it's slowly, you do it at this, and then this, and then this. And so your skin gets associated. You can potentially use tretinoin, but you have to warm your skin up to it. So that was a really long explanation, and I'm so sorry. But I'm super passionate about it because it's the same thing on vitamin C. I mean, I could go into like, why can't people use certain vitamin C's? Well, what's the molecular level of that vitamin C? Is that L-ascorbic acid? Is that ascorbic acid? Is that citric acid? So this is why I opened up a spa, right? This is why I have so much passion, because nobody taught me this. And so if I could be that person that's going to teach you of like, you may be able to use L-ascorbic acid and you may never be able to. And that is because everybody's skin is like a fingerprint. I hate, I don't like to use the word hate, but I hate when people go, well, what skin type are you? Are you dry? Are you oily? Are you combo? And it's like, okay, throw those words away. That doesn't exist. Everybody's skin is a fingerprint. And what they need at different times of the month, at different times of the year is so different. This is why we should never have the same skincare routine month after month, why we should always be checking in with our esthetician, because what we need when it's 32 degrees outside is so much different than what we need when it's 105 degrees outside, right? Our skin is the largest living organ in our body, and it changes based on what is going on in our environment or what is going on inside of our body. So
you are
blowing over.
You are blowing my mind right now.
Sorry.
I even think back to the times where I started experiencing issues with my skin. And it was when I introduced
dun dun dun
retinol. I was like, oh, this, I got medical grade retinol, and I'm like, whoa, I've had rosacea ever since.
Well, and rosacea is super interesting because I will have someone come in and they will go, I've got rosacea, and I'm looking at them, right? And I like to listen. That's one thing I've learned in my older age, is that I listen a lot better. And I go, tell me about that. Like, were you clinically diagnosed with rosacea? And they'll go, no, I just get like really red, right? And I'll go, okay. I said, do you know what rosacea actually is? Because not very many people know. And I go, it is an overgrowth of a type of skin mite. And then that really disgusts people because they're like, oh my God, I have skin mites. And I'm like, we all have skin mites on our skin. That's called the microbiome of our skin, right? Like we all do. You just went and pissed off yours. So this is why when it comes to like harsh peels and lasers and things like that can irritate our skin barrier. We get these little cracks, and we can't see them to the naked eye, but they're there. And so if you get a crack, it's like getting a sore somewhere, where if you like have a sore and then you let crap get on it, like it's gonna get infected, and then you gotta put Band-Aid, you gotta put Neosporin, our face is the same way. And so if you don't treat the skin properly after a peel or a laser, and you just go back to using all your stuff you were using 4 days ago, you're going to piss off your skin. Like, think of it like a big scale. You've opened it up to this. That's why the epidermis, our upper skin barrier, is so important. It's protecting us, right? And we are of this nation of like, let's peel it off. Let's get it out of here. And it's like, no, dude, that was there for a reason.
Yeah, you were blowing my mind right now.
I know.
So what is your go-to retinol for the summer?
Okay. Well, so I don't want to go, down too many names of brands, but it's retinol palmitate. I will forever use a retinol palmitate. Now, we have the step-up system at our spa, and you can get this brand. It's called Environ. It's the Des Fernandez. He wrote a whole book on vitamin A. I think the man is brilliant. What's super cool, little caveat, is that he discovered the importance of vitamin A when so he's in South Africa, and he had these 2 patients who came down with melanoma, because he's a plastic surgeon, dermatologist. And he had these 2 young, I think they were like 18 or 19-year-olds, and they died of melanoma this one year. And this was back in like the early 90s, I think, maybe. 80s, and he couldn't figure out why, right? He was so invested in these people, and he came to find that there was a hole in the ozone layer in South Africa, in Cape Town.
Oh my gosh.
And the UV rays were so bad that he goes, we have to find a way to get vitamin A on the skin during the daytime, because that is such a protective layer of building a strong skin barrier, right? If you do, I have this UV camera that I love to use, and I love to show people that vitamin A and vitamin C, if you use together combo, has about a natural 20% SPF on the skin. I don't like to say that a lot, because then people will be like, oh, well, I'm just going to use my vitamin A and my vitamin C and never put on an SPF. And I'm like, no. We still need to use an SPF. But I have this UV camera where I've got nothing on my face, and then I go and I put my vitamin A, vitamin C, that's what the brand, it has a combo of it, on my face, and my face starts to turn gray. And you can see, so this UV camera shows that if your face turns completely black, you have 100% UV protection.
Wow.
But just with that one serum, your face is a little bit gray, right? Because it's showing that about 20%. And then you go and you put your true SPF on, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, and it turns black. And so, so it's a product called Environ. It's a sequence. It's got vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. My caveat really quick, and I don't mean to talk total trash about brands, but
please.
If you are using SkinCeuticals, CNE, Ferulic, please, for the love of God, of everything that is holy, please throw it in the trash. And there's actually clinical studies that show this. That product is in a bottle that is color-coded, whatever, but every time you pull that out in a dropper, after about 10 days, people are like, oh, it starts to turn like a little bit of a brown color. That is because it oxidized and it is now trash. You just paid $150. L-ascorbic acid is, and there's a clinical trial that shows this, is the most unstable form of vitamin C there is out there. This is why it makes people like, well, every time I use vitamin C, I get a little breakout. And I'm like, I wonder why.
I'm going to ask, what are your thoughts on the revision?
So I love revision. You want to know why? Because it's THD vitamin C. It's the tetrahexyl ascorbate, and that is the most it's the same thing with vitamin A.
It's most stable. Right?
It is the most stable form of vitamin. So when I have clients that come to the spa and they go, oh, well, I'm using revisions, I'm like, I love you. So I love that.
Yeah.
But nobody teaches nor nobody thinks to turn around the label of a product. So when I have a client that comes in and they go, oh, well, I use such and such cream. They go, it says Botox on a bottle on the front. And I go, I do not care what it says on the front. And I literally go out between when they're getting dressed and come out, and I Google it and I look, and I'm just looking at the ingredients. So I'm that nerd that can turn around a bottle of anything and be like, that's a stabilizer, that's an emulsifier, that's a this, where are the good ingredients? Oh, there they are, right? And that's what I want to teach people. They don't need to be at the level that I am because I'm a total geek with it, but at least teaching them about the key components of skin. Vitamin A is very important in skin. Vitamin C is very important in skin. Peptides, things like that, that at least if I can teach them that, then my job here is done.
It's really incredible. You're blowing my mind right now. And I think there's just so much misinformation about skincare. You could pull up TikTok, you could pull up any social media, and you will have someone confidently with beautiful skin speaking at you like what to do with your skin, and it is scary.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sunscreen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you pull up any social media right now, and there are people getting in full-blown wars over whether they think you should be wearing sunscreen or not.
It's like the COVID vaccine.
Very scary.
It's like the sunscreen is the new COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Do you have any clients that you have to educate on that?
I feel like as soon as we have like a real in-depth conversation about what it's doing, then they get it, right? But there is not one dermatologist out there that will argue with you that SPF is important, right? And you can even go away from the word of saying SPF and just go UV protection, because we know time and time, clinical study after again, that what we are trying to do is keep UV rays from penetrating our skin. And so I will have a client that'll come in and they will have they will want all the things. I want the most potent serum you have. I want the most potent peptide you have. And then they go, but I don't wear SPF. And I will straight look at them in the face and be like, you are wasting your money.
Good for you.
Because I'll say, if you walked out of here and you could only buy one product today, it has to be SPF, right? So when someone comes in and they say, I want the best anti-aging, but I will never wear SPF, then I'm like, you are grossly uninformed, and this is probably not the place for you to hang out. Like, I'll tell people straight up, like, until you use an SPF, I'm not going to sell you that $400 serum. I mean, you can buy it if you want, but I talk people out of buying products all the time. I think people think I'm here to, like, just because I have a 10-step routine that I'm going to give them a 10-step routine. I would rather you have 3 steps that you use consistently than 12 steps that you stare at on your counter. Right. And I say that, my employees know that, I say that to my clients. But I mean, the fact that anybody, of course we could go into the thing of like, well, they're a Fitzpatrick 5, which is a darker skin tone, or a Fitzpatrick 1. Like, well, of course a Fitzpatrick 5 is going to be able to kind of block the UV rays a lot more than a Fitzpatrick 1, right? But nobody, no dermatologist, no anybody is going to argue that UVA, UVB rays that penetrate the skin deeper are doing damage, right? So what is what is the best anti-aging ingredient on the market?
Are you asking?
SPF.
Like, it's SPF.
Yeah, it's SPF, right? Because 90% of skin aging, visible skin aging, happens from UV rays.
It's so interesting how polarizing it's become, but thank you for setting the record straight. You
Yes.
heard it here.
I mean, but here's the thing, like, don't trust me. Like, I always tell my clients this too. I got this from a clinical trial from the
go study
from
it.
the FDA, right?
Yeah.
And we could go into a long conversation about what do we believe in the FDA or not.
Sure.
But
Yeah, but it's like pretty global.
Yeah.
We all wear SPF, you know, like it shouldn't be as polarizing as
So people who
the
come in
COVID
and they're like,
vaccine.
I take my anti-aging seriously, but I never wear SPF. I go,
It's wild.
oh, okay.
Wild.
I would
Sure.
assume, just, not from knowing any better, that by the time people get to you, majority of them aren't saying that.
No, I mean, but every once in a while have a client walk in where, and I think this is something I've learned in my old age, like, I'm not going to argue with them. I'm arguing with a brick wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They come in and they spend 9 months of the year in Palm Springs, and they love to lay out by the pool, and they don't want to wear a hat, but they come in and they're like, I just really want to fix my hyperpigmentation. And I'm like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's so wild.
I'm going to waste so much energy
Right.
telling you all of this, and you're not going to believe a damn thing I say.
It's so
And so you have to, I call it pick your battles.
Yeah.
That's a battle I'm not about to pick. But come check me out in 20 years and let's see who's got better looking skin.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm not going to say that to him, but
You're going to think.
I'm definitely, that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Okay,
So
so what's your go-to SPF?
So, if you guys open that little thing that's down on the ground
She brought us-
there.
we got
Yes.
gifts. You guys,
Yes.
she
So
brought us
there,
gifts. I'm so-
my go-to
Is there an alarm button on here?
Dun, dun, dun. So,
I can't believe
I know that, you can put that, not that one yet. So there's a black box in there. And it is this brand that so my favorite way to discover products is by my own research. I have had so many brands reach out to me, and want to like get my spa to carry their product, right? But my favorite is when I find it on my own.
How do you find them?
I love the Gram. I found this from the Gram. There was another spa of a good friend of mine in Florida that carries this product, and I always get intrigued. So I'm like, oh, what is this? What is that? So this brand is called Pavis, and it is an SPF that was created by this woman called Sophie. That's her name, not created by this woman. But she went to MIT, she went to Harvard, and she created this diamond core technology, right? So I am of the, I'm also got to preface this, I am of the belief of mineral SPF.
Right.
So I don't want to, well, this could be a whole podcast on chemical versus mineral sunscreen, but I am of the mindset of mineral SPF. A few different reasons why. Number one is because the second that you put it on, you are protected, right? You don't have to do that like, Mom, I got to wait 15 minutes to get in the pool because I put on my SPF. That's a chemical sunscreen. This is a mineral sunscreen, which means that it's zinc oxide. So it automatically, it's a physical barrier. So as soon as you put this on your face, the sun rays come down and it boom, boom, it like blocks it, right? So this not only is a zinc oxide form, but it has this ingredient or this technology that she created called diamond core technology. And what that did is it created, number one, the SPF to last on the face. So the big thing that people don't realize and that nobody does, maybe like with 2% of the population, is reapply their SPF every 2 hours. So if you turn over any bottle of SPF, it says, must reapply every 2 hours, da-da-da. Ain't nobody doing that. Nobody's doing that, right? So this can last all day long. So you put this on one time and it lasts all day long. But not only does it do that, so the diamond core technology makes it so that it lasts longer, but it also blocks 90% of what's called ROS, reactive oxygen species, which is the number one oxidative stress of the skin that causes skin aging. So it's so cool, right? The other thing that this product has, so it's a treatment, a moisturizer. I don't use it as a moisturizer. I actually still use a moisturizer with it. But it has an ingredient called tranexamic acid. Tranexamic acid is right now kind of slowly becoming a bigger thing on the market, of that it's one of the only ingredients that can, I don't want to say the word heal, but it can help to help with melasma, which melasma, I mean, again, we can do a whole other podcast on hyperpigmentation and what it is and why I believe that lasers don't help hyperpigmentation and blah, blah, blah. But tranexamic acid can help with melasma, either taking it orally through a pill or putting it on your skin. So what's so fun is when I bring a product in and I believe in it a ton, but then slowly I start getting these text messages from some of my top clients and they're like, that is the best SPF I have ever used in my entire life, right? And then like a little like dance inside of me is like, oh my God, thank God, I'm not crazy, right? And so the amount of like DMs, text messages I get, because I will buy a product with my own money, bring it in, try it myself. Nobody knows. Like I'm testing products right now that you guys will never know that I'm testing. Really? Because I don't talk about them until they have passed kind of me and my employees.
That is just so rare.
Yeah.
You know, people promote things that will put money in their pocket. Yeah. You know, and I feel like that's why it's so difficult to disseminate information, especially with skincare right now, because there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah. This is very cool packaging too.
Yeah, very scientific. So anyway, so that woman is brilliant. I love it. I love that she is Harvard educated, MIT educated. She found that she is so passionate about it, because what we're going to find in the years to come and that we're already finding now is how much UV damage does to the aging of our skin, right? Not just aging of our skin, but also, you know, whether you want to argue it or not, like our ozone thin is thinning out every single, our ozone layer is thinning out every single day. Like, whether you want to believe in global warming or not, I'm not here to argue that. It's happening, friends. And
it's safe space for that comment.
Yeah. So there you go. You get a little taste of some puppies.
So I can't wait to try it. I will certainly. 3
pumps after your moisturizer every morning.
After my moisturizer.
After your moisturizer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have done it before, so thank you.
Nope. SPF should always be the very last thing you put on your face.
Okay.
The very last thing.
Okay.
Yep.
So, as a girly who wears full-blown makeup, are you still doing it before that? Like,
no, I put on my SPF and then I put on my makeup.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That was a little confusing.
I was just
so
sorry.
Like,
wait a minute.
So I meant like
what
of your skincare routine.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's interesting, tranexamic acid. I heard about it in 2020 for the first time, and I've been hearing about it more and more. But it feels like a lot of the big medical grade skincare brands have not brought it on in any way. So it's amazing that you're bringing it on, introducing it to people, and making it a thing. Both, like orally, is it a prescription?
So I don't want to go too much in that because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a dermatologist. But I may have just saw a video actually today of this woman who's a dermatologist who she has really bad melasma. Now that it is for hyperpigmentation, but melasma is a form of hyperpigmentation. that is one of the hardest, and I will look straight at my clients in the face who have melasma, and I will look at them and I will go, you're not going to get rid of this.
Yeah.
But I'm very honest. Like, I will never be one of those people that's like, oh yeah, come to me 3 times and it'll go away. I look at them straight in the eyes, because melasma is one of those things that you can't do hot yoga. You get like heat exacerbates melasma, right? It's a hormonal imbalance in our body. I don't want to say imbalance, but it's a hormonal thing. So, I don't know. I don't remember what your question is about it. But,
just that it's like kind of being ruled out
yes.
a little more. Both orally.
Orally, I think it was around 700, and again, talk to your doctor about this, don't trust me, about you could take 750 milligrams orally per day to help with your prescription.
Yeah.
Yes. But this woman had actually gone to, she was in Madrid and picked up some at like a Madrid pharmacy, but brought it back to the States and asked her dermatologist about it, and it was, she could only get it in 500 milligrams, but her dermatologist said yes, that would absolutely help, and she had said that it absolutely did help. But if you're not, wanting to go to a dermatologist, not willing to go that route of doing it, then you can use it topically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What is your take on at-home devices?
Ooh, I love some at-home
You
devices.
do? I didn't expect you to say
that.
that.
Girl, I'm like doing so all over it. Now, I like
so
to keep it to
funny.
where, like, what's the most bang for your buck, right?
What's
Because
worth the splurge?
100%, right? So we know clinically, LED therapy is phenomenal for a multitude of reasons, for collagen boosting, elastin boosting, things like that. We know that microcurrent is a clinically proven to help to lift our skin. So my conversation to my clients are, what are you trying to accomplish? What's the most important thing, right? If it's brightening, even skin tone, LED therapy. You need it, and then you could go into the levels of like, what's LED therapy? Well, there's a lot of clinical trials that show that, red LED therapy at a wavelength of like 680 nanometers that can go really, really deep with some near infrared is going to be the best for that. Okay, so how do we get that? Okay, find the device that has that. I'm a proponent of the Omnilux mask. It has 680 nanometers of red light therapy with near infrared, and it's on the skin. The one thing we don't understand about LED therapy is that it has to almost be touching the skin. So it's not that I'm against like those Soluma things that go over you, but we know clinically that red light scatters, right? So the closer you can get it to the skin, the tighter it is to the skin, the better it's going to work, right? Because it's not going to be able to scatter as much. So we know that blue light therapy is best for acne. So if someone's looking for like acne or brightening or things like that, LED therapy. Okay, if you are looking for like a facelift, and I have that in my quotations, or you're trying to work on the muscular level of your face, we know clinically that microcurrent. Now, my caveat to any device at home is that you have to be committed. And I will tell every client that. If they say, I want to buy the new face, and I'm like, okay, are you going to do it every day? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then you're not going to see, don't pay $400 then. That's a waste of your money, right? So we know that with microcurrent, it needs to be used about 5 days a week for the first month, and then you can tailor off. It's just like going and working out, because it's doing the same thing. You know that when you first start working out, go and, work out about 4 or 5 weeks before you start kind of seeing the tone in your muscles. And then you can go back to doing like 3 days a week. It's the same thing with our face, right? There is the newest device that I'm very intrigued by and I'm very passionate about is this thing called the Near laser. And I have forever been a girl that hates lasers. Like I will talk, I won't say trash about laser, but I do not like anything that heats up the skin for a multitude of reasons.
So even all of the facials you do, they're cold?
They're cold. They're all cold. We use cold water. That's a very European thing, but then also, if you look at melasma, if you look at hyperpigmentation, if you look at things, people who have irritated skin, people who have rosacea, people who have, you shouldn't use heat. You should not use heat. It dilates capillaries. It can piss your skin off even more. And so we like to use all things cold on our face. And so I got a hold of this Near device. It's a non-fractional at-home laser you can use. And I had it given to me, and I brought it home, and it like sat on my counter because I was like, oh, no, this heats up my skin. I don't like it, right? So finally, the people who gave it to me were like, we really want you to get on a call with the founder and the creator of this. And I was like, dude, I'm going to rip him to shreds. Like, I'm going to ask him all the questions.
So badass.
You know what I mean? Like, but But you know what I love even more? I love being proved wrong. I love when someone looks at me and is like, you are wrong. And I'm like, talk to me. Because I'm totally fine with putting my ego aside and being like, okay, I was wrong. You were right. So he, David Bean is his name, and he created this, and he has spent his whole life, like the last 20 years, creating lasers that go into the lasers that are used in med spas and dermatology clinics, right? And through creating this...
Beam?
Bean.
Even better.
David Bean. Hi, David. I adore you. And so he said, God, there's got to be a better way to do this, right? Because he was creating these lasers, and he was finding that there was such a downtime after doing a laser. There was burning of the skin. People would have to go hide out in their house for a week. You couldn't go out in the sun afterwards. And it was, again, tarnishing the skin barrier, which I'm a very big proponent of keeping intact, right? But these lasers, whether it's the Moxie or it's the Morpheus or whatever it is tarnishing the skin's barrier, which is our protective barrier. So he says there's got to be a better way to do this, right? So his better way of doing it, he said, I'm going to create a laser that emits a laser beam, a non-fractional laser, at a lower joule level. Joules are what we measure the energy in our skin, or energy in lasers to, right? So these, and I'm going to throw some numbers out that are not like 100%, but the Moxie or things of that nature run at a joule level of like 10 to 12 or something. So we know that above a level, I think, of 10 joules causes cellular necrosis in the skin, right? So this kills cells. So why are we doing something to our face that could possibly kill a cell to promote collagen and elastin? Well, number one, we know that there's a lot of other things that can build collagen and elastin a lot better than like frying our face up with a laser, right? But we've been told by all of these companies, no offense, like, this is the best thing for firming. This is the best thing for this, for da-da-da-da-da. So he said, I'm going to create something that you have to do on a daily basis. Like, that's the whole thing that I believe in. Doing things slowly over time is so much better for your skin than doing a one and done.
Wow,
and
let that sit in.
Let that sit in for a minute, friends. It takes commitment, consistency.
Wow.
So he did this study, and to my knowledge, it's the only kind of clinical trial that you can find that shows him using his little near laser that you can use at home and you can buy, compared to a Moxie laser or a non-fractional laser you get at the spa, right? So this laser over here, the I don't want to keep saying Moxie, but the non-fractional laser used in a medical clinic shoots this laser up into your skin and burns it, and it takes this downtime, but it's a one and done, right? You do it, it's like a 30-minute session, you go home, you don't have to do it for another 3 months. Where if you do a lower joule level to where it's not causing cellular necrosis, there's no pain, so you don't have to numb yourself, and you're not tarnishing your skin's barrier, but you do it for daily over 90 days, the clinical trial actually shows that you build more collagen, more elastin than you do with this medical one. There's one problem.
Commitment. Yeah.
Americans do not. They want it done now, right?
Totally. That's me.
And I will look at clients and I'll say, okay, you want the results that I have. You see my skin, you see what I've done, but are you willing to put the time in? And I want them to tell me no, because I want them to be honest with me, right? But I think the more that I share on my social media and the more that I show and the more years that go by that I'm still doing this. This wasn't like a fun 6-month experiment that I did, but I'm still doing this day in, day out, and it's still working. Yeah. That to a point, they're like, okay, like I can give my face 5 minutes a day. I can do this. So I'm not here to tell you not to get those lasers at the dermatologist or at a med spa. But what I'm here to tell you that if you're someone who has tried all the things and you continually try all the things and you're still not happy or you're still not at the result that you want, then you gotta change something, right? Nothing changes unless nothing changes. So we get clients that come in and they go, oh my God, I do not want to change my cream. I love my cream. It's the best cream I've ever used. And then I'm like, you're dry. Like, yeah, I'm still really dry though. And it's like, to me, I'm like, did you not connect like A and B equals C? Like, you've been using this cream for 6 months, your skin is still dry. Hey friend, that cream doesn't work. Yeah. Like, you gotta try something different, right? And so that's, again, like, if I'm not here to convince you to go home and do a near laser for 90 days if you're not going to put the commitment in, because it's $500 for this at-home laser. I just put some before and afters up actually today of my skin that I was actually thoroughly baffled myself because
your skin is unreal.
Oh,
I know.
it's
I'm
so
like,
sweet.
Unreal.
I know.
Well,
Whatever you say, girl.
Well, I joke that I'm like, well, I just wash my face all night. That's what I do. But, so there you go. I believe in at-home treatments if you're, or at-home devices if you're going to use them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are some that are out there on the market that I think are just like, not fake, but they're just like, is that really going to do a thing? I don't know. Let's pull up a white paper, right?
Yeah.
Like, I will never say something if I don't have any evidence to back it up.
Sure. That's, you know what? That's makes you more reputable.
Yeah.
So,
I dig it.
Yeah. Very appreciative for, I've been in aesthetics for a long ass time.
10 years, she'll let you know.
Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
What is that old joke of like, how do you know that somebody, does this? Oh, they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you.
How do you know if someone's vegan? They're going to tell
Yes,
you.
yes.
Did you know I do CrossFit?
Is CrossFit still around?
Yeah, I do it every day. Thank you for. I specifically didn't say 10 years.
I was telling the people.
Hey, I would be shouting
up.
from the rooftop.
You're
Because
being really humble. I thought to tell people.
Oh, fuck off.
people look at me and they're like, well, you've only been doing this for 3 years. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's not that long. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But with that, what I was going to say is I've met so many skincare reps, so many people who are experts in like estheticians, and to your reference that data of how long you have to be in school to be an esthetician, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with being a dermatologist, unfortunately, how it relates to aesthetics.
Yeah.
Being an RN, being a doctor, there's so many patients that will say, I only want to see a doctor. Ask your doctor how much time they spent studying fillers and Botox. Zero. We all got zero. We all got
Ask
zero.
a dermatologist how long they spent in class learning about vitamin A.
Really? Tell
2
me.
minutes.
Shut up.
2 minutes. Because think about it, like, and I actually would love to find a dermatologist. I've said this to my clients because a lot of my clients go, who's a good dermatologist? And I'm like, I don't really have anybody that I refer to. And I would love to find a partner in this because the ones that I have talked to are like, we are not in this medical field to like
They don't
anti-age.
take insurance. They don't take it. You can't take insurance
But like
for that.
a dermatologist, yes, there are some out there that are solely now, like the world of Instagram, are there to anti-age, but they're there to find skin cancer and to cure skin cancer. Like when someone goes in and like, I want to anti-age, they literally throw everybody tretinoin in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing with acne,
Yeah.
right? They're going to throw everybody an antibiotic. And I'm going to go, okay, I'll see you in 3 months when the antibiotic wore off and it doesn't work anymore because that's not what's going to heal your acne.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how that is. Like, I worked for a dermatologist for a little bit, amazing with Mohs, and it's like that's where his expertise should have been.
That's
like,
what they spent their years doing.
Yeah, he brought me on to do Botox and fillers, and I would tell him stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, it's not true." Yeah, like it was just like it didn't matter, and that was like totally okay because you were doing other really important things, And I think it's kind of shitty how dermatologist, esthetician, it overlaps with things that people are truly passionate about, and it's just like you think that they are the experts that's going to have all the answers for you. You put all your trust in them because they have a medical degree and they've spent 10 to 15 years in studying what you're seeking out. But I mean, that story about you with the acne, like I've had patients come to me just desperate for anything, and I didn't have the answer because skincare has never really been my passion. Like knock on wood, I always just kind of had okay skin. Yeah. And so it was never my pain point. Yeah. Once something becomes your pain point, you just obsess about, like, it's so cool to hear your devotion and passion around it. And I've honestly, I don't think I've ever really heard anyone with that amount of passion and like devotion to it. So
I would agree. It's very refreshing. I mean, we have both sat in rooms together and listened to rep after rep, and we've tried things that feel really good or that sit really cosmetically elegantly on the skin that we like. But I think that your perspective and everything that you've had to share is extremely refreshing.
Yeah, and unique. Yeah.
Well, I think that everybody needs. this whole notion of if I see a product that says like for all skin types, I almost like get the hives, right? I'm like, no, because what your skin needs is totally different than what her skin needs, right? And we nobody talks about that. So I always tell people, and I tell my team, I go, because there's so many times that I sat in a spa or I sat with an esthetician and they said, you need to use this, and they laid all these products, and I would go, yep. But they didn't tell me why. Why does my skin need that form of vitamin C? Why does my skin need that? And so I always tell my team, if you ever go to sell a product to a client and you don't tell them why their skin needs that, then put it away. Put it away. Because also, we as consumers, we as people, we are motivated. I'm more motivated to do my skincare routine at nighttime if I know why I'm doing it, right? If I'm just doing it because the lady told me to do these 3 steps, but I don't really know why. But if she's like, I want you to do these 3 steps because you have hyperpigmentation and we need to heal that cell underneath, and this ingredient is going to heal that cell over time, I'm like, bam, I'll do my skincare routine every night, right? So that is the way that I educate my team. That is the way that we educate our clients. And so I feel like by the time that you've come to our spa, or the time that you've come to us, you've kind of seen it all and you've heard it all and you're ready to be educated, right? We're still going to get those clients that come in that they don't want a skincare routine. And we're like, okay, that's great, super. We'll give you a phenomenal facial and let you on your way. We're not going to force you to get anything you don't want to get. But most people, by the time we're done with the facial, because we spent that facial educating them, they're like, no one has ever told me that. And that's like my favorite thing out of somebody's mouth is when they go, no one has ever told me that. And I'm like, yes, I taught something today. You know what I mean?
Really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you educated me.
Yeah.
Like I've heard so many people just talk at me about skincare.
Yeah.
It all it has never sounded the way that you speak.
Wow. Again, that is years of educating myself and educating, my passion behind really teaching, educating people. So
it's amazing. Thank you.
Angela, when's the last time you fell asleep with your makeup on?
Ooh, so there was this time. No. There was like one time, I think within the last year. So a toxic trait of mine is that we let our kids still sleep with us. I have a 7-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl, and they love nothing more. Like now it gets to a point where they beg us. Well, so we still lay with them to go to bed, but then my husband and I like sneak out and we go to our own room, and we sleep until they come in at like 2 a.m. And so there are so many times that like I have all these like, okay, after I put the kids to bed, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then you lay with them and they take like 30 frickin' minutes to fall asleep. And you're just like, go to bed. I want you to go to bed. I've got a lot of things to do. And it was probably within the last like 8 months, but I will tell you, I jumped out of bed at like 1 a.m. like, shit. I didn't wash my face. And I like ran to the bathroom and, grabbed some cotton rounds and grabbed some micellar water halfway asleep and just like, took it all off. So I may not have done my full routine that night, but I fell asleep with my makeup on, but I woke up. I woke up.
I think that's totally fair.
But, there's this old saying, or not an old saying, but like within a lot of people that I know, they're like, I never wanted to do my skincare routine at nighttime because I was tired until every time I did it, I would wake up in the morning and my skin would look better. So now they're like, now I'm addicted to doing it, right? My other thing is, don't wait until bedtime to do your routine. Like, I think I did my routine last night at like 5:30 p.m.
Nice.
Like, I think I had a mask on while I was cooking dinner. And that's just like more normal at my house than not. Because if you do it as soon as you get home, then when it's time to go to bed, you just go to bed.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to be like, okay, now I got to go do my 10-step routine.
I won't sleep as well if I don't
Yeah.
do my skincare, or at least take everything off before I go to bed.
Yeah. So maybe once in the last year, but I jumped right up in the middle of the night. I did it.
I sleep in my makeup almost every night. Please don't let me.
No, I gotta say, so there was a question you guys said. It was like, if you could go back in time 10 years, I kid you not. No. I kid you not. I used to fall asleep in my makeup every single night. Like, full on. I don't know what I used 10 years ago. Probably like Maybelline something, foundation. I would fall asleep, mascara, everything on my face. And I'd get up the next morning and I would shower and I'd put it off, take it off, and then I'd put it right back on. Like it's mind-boggling how my skin doesn't look like trash right now.
That's my jam.
So that is my favorite thing to tell people is like that is how we know that our skin regenerates itself. Like our skin truly, it's never too late to start a skincare routine. It is never too late to start taking care of our skin because our skin regenerates itself every like 28 to 40 days.
Today is going to be the turning point for me.
Today is the day.
Yeah.
Today is the day.
I
should have brought you some cleanser in that bag.
I've got a bar of soap.
Yeah. I've got the shampoo that runs down my face when I'm shaving my face.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. You totally inspired me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
What's one product you would never use?
Never use?
No.
Would it be that SkinCeuticals one?
Oh, yeah. I'd never use that. I don't know. I'm like a never say never person because I just don't want it to be 20 years down the road and I've got like these internet friends. I call them my Instagram followers, my internet friends. They're like, 20 years ago, you said you'd never do that. And yet here you are. Tretinoin. I know that's crazy.
Yeah, interesting.
But probably CNE for look more than tretinoin. Yeah. I just don't, I look at my skin and I'm like, you don't need tretinoin.
What about that apricot ice?
Oh.
I know, that's like the most, but like,
wouldn't you put
it on your feet?
I like live and breathe with apricot scrub back in the day. Dude, I used the Clinique 3-step system. I was like, burn it off. Burn it off. Yeah, probably the apricot scrub. I didn't go down that. I was thinking more ingredients. Again, I'm so ingredient driven that I'm like, ooh, what's an ingredient?
We have a wide range of followers. I hope that somebody puts down the apricot scrub.
I hope they put down the apricot scrub, especially if your cheeks are pink. Put it down.
Maybe that's actually me.
That's like the first sign of an irritated barrier is if your cheeks are pink. Yeah, because this is the place that your skin starts to thin the quickest.